Didn't get quite as far as I'd hoped on this episode. We got these made here. Looks pretty simple, but kind of detailed on how to get there. But anyway, stay tuned and we'll get those made. Next up, on the next episode after this, we'll get the other mounts for the rod axes, not the bearings here, for the lead screws. This is just for the bearings. Anyway, stay tuned. Hey everyone, this is Kevin back again with this next episode here. And so last time we got these 4 rods located where we want to have them for the most part. The Z part, not quite yet. We'll get to that as soon as we get the rest of this made. So what we need to make first is the tray for the heated bed to kind of, basically the foundation for it. Let's go ahead and take one of these angle irons here and duplicate it. Kind of go into Z mode. What we can do is kind of place it somewhere close to where we want it. Kind of want to have it somewhat centered so that the hole here will go in there and be kind of put in there, or able to be put in there rather easily. So on the y-axis, let's just make it 108, 109. And let's duplicate that. Make that negative, or actually let's rotate it first, 180 degrees. Negative 109. And so for both of these, I'm trying to think here. Duplicate, let's rotate 90 on the z-axis. So what we can do, make that go to negative 109. Let's duplicate that. Oh, rotate 180. Make that 109. So let's grab both of those and size them down on the y-axis to go just inside of the edge here, because the angle iron, that's the outside edge and that's the corner. So we got that so it'll fit in there just right. So what we need to do also, actually we need to move these down here. Move those about there. Stand up pretty well. Let's move these ones down. Yeah, it looks like I didn't have those centered quite right. Those look right, but these ones, set origin, separate mass, that's right. It's not quite centered like it should be. Actually, it's probably, yeah, I was thinking that was off there for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe I didn't move them down and center them like I should have. Anyways, readjust those. Y. So it should be the same on the bottom too now. There we go. I just didn't move it on the correct Y plane. So those side ones here are going to be on top. These ones will be, actually, these ones should be on top. So let's move those up just above those. And size X. And these can be all the way to the edge because those other ones are going to go underneath them. So that way, when these are both overlapping, we have a double thickness here that we can screw and tap for these bolts to go into. So that way, when we tighten these bolts in, it'll adjust each plate just right, so that it won't have any issues with the leveling of the bed. Will be more precise and secure. And so with that, we have the bed kind of made. So now that we have that made, we're just weld those together too. Just weld them on all the edges here. Now we can make the mounts for the here to the plate, or we can make the mounts for that to the here, because there's going to be two different types of mounts. And so what we need to do is cursor to selected, and then just make a cube here, size it up. I want to have that over here. That needs to go about like that there. Set it down about the same size as the other one here. It's about the same size as the inner parts there. So it doesn't need to be super huge. But we do need to be able to mount this properly though, so. Did I make screws last time? I don't remember. I think I might have, but I might have deleted them on accident. Let's go ahead and make a screw, so let's go to bolt, M8, Allen cap, thread length 20, and scale is up by 10. We have our bolt size. Okay, so now we have kind of an idea what we'll be working with there. Okay, so we'll want to secure this with at least 2 bolts. Duplicate that. That'll help us determine the size that we need for this. And let's go ahead and move the cursor to selected. Should add a nut from here to nut, and resize it up by 10. And it's right on the edge there. That in somewhat. Cursor selected. Select the cursor. Rotate to 90 degrees. That's on there. What we're looking for is for. Oh, I didn't duplicate it. Oops. Oh well. Duplicate. Cursor is selected. Selected the cursor. Rotate to 90. There we go. I'm just checking for his interference between these two. let's see, they're pretty close. That's too close for comfort for me, so let's go ahead and move this up and at least a couple of millimeters in between them. So this we need to make a little bit bigger. Move it down a little bit. Like with my other build, I actually made everything all connected with these other corners here, and you can still do that if you want. You can make the part separate and then connect everything else later. But one thing I'm going to do first, though, is just to get an idea, is select all of this and move it up to where the hot end is going to be. Got everything. Nope. Okay, that's everything. Kind of move it up to where it's going to be. That way we can get these a little bit more accurate. So all we're making this one for is the bearing holder for this. So this just needs to go out this far over to here to hold the bearing. And to do that, we're just making this big enough to hold both of those. And so what I'm going to do is take just those, Shift H, hide everything but these. That way we're working with just these. And I'm going to add a cylinder. Oops. Forgot that I moved these. Cursor just selected. Now add a cylinder. That's going to be... Oh wait, we're working with M5 bolts, not M8s. So 5 by 5 by, let's make it 30. X90. So we can delete these actually. We're not using M8s, we're using M5. And we just Shift A. M5. Allen. Cap. Then make the thread like 20. Size that up by 10. X90. Negative. There we go. That looks better. I was thinking M8 because I've been working on a new extruder for the big printer, and it uses M8 bolts for the hub bolt to guide the filament. So anyway, they've got that there. So we go edit mode. Slice the cube that way, slice it that way, slice it in half all the way. And I'm actually going to unhide everything just so I can get these lined up here. Focus in on this. So that's good. This one can be moved over, so that's good and centered. Okay, let's go back to what we were doing. Okay, so now I hit the cylinder, didn't I? I did. Okay. Just cylinder. And I'll shift H now. Okay. So with that, move that like that. Duplicate that. Cursor is selected. Select the cursor. This isn't lined up properly. There we go. Rotate Z90. So that lines up with that. Move this over. And gotta make another nut here. Let's change this to nut. Scale it up by 10. Okay, now we can add a cylinder. X90. Size that up. Actually, add a cylinder. Make it 6. Rotate 90. And size that up. A little bit bigger than that. Rotate it. A little bit bigger than that here. So that's about right there. Duplicate that. Yeah, that looks about right. As long as there's enough room for the nut to fully engage and clamp down on the whole thing, it should be fine. Let's go ahead and grab both of those, join them together. Grab both of those, join them together. Boolean, union, gotta figure out what these are called. They are cylinder 11. Apply. I can delete the old ones. Now I have the cutout mold made for that just right now. Let's go ahead and continue editing our object here. So what we can do is, I'm going to try this, I don't know if it'll work, but got those faces selected, just press X, and go like that. That moved everything over just like I was hoping it would. So that worked awesome. And how I did that was I went to the main view and then I pressed the 4 button 4 times, and that made the angle 45 degrees, and when you extrude it, it goes directly out. And so that made it so that worked out just fine there. So now what I can do is I actually need to make this bigger because we need to have the bearing in there. Select those 2 edges right there that are kind of in too far. And go to the top view. And it won't let you size it at all. Well, that's weird. Let's go ahead and just move one of them. Kind of over there. The other one, the other one's down here. The other one over here. So there's that. So now what we can do is just go back to vertex mode. Have that all. Fill it up. And that. Go down. So we just need it to be out here big enough to hold the bearing. Cursor is selected. And then add a cylinder. Remember, it's going to be 6 sides because of the ones that we're doing. Got to change that back to something better. I like to use 64 or 128 depending on what I'm doing. And so the main bearing that we want to have that's going to go in there is 22. So I usually make it 23 just to give it a little bit of room, because they never print out perfect. They come pretty close, but I like to leave a little bit of room. So that leaves it 0.5 millimeter on each side. And then there's 7 millimeters deep, so I usually make it a little bit bigger. Then we got to move that all the way up from the bottom of that. And there we go. So that needs to be in there. That's where it needs to be. I'm going to make it bigger because it's a little bit wider there. So I got that. And so I'm going to duplicate that, bring it down on Z, make that 8.5. Just give the threaded rod some clearance. Add it there. That's cylinder 11 again, and cylinder 10. Select that one, add the union. Find cylinder 11 here. Apply. We can delete cylinder 11. So now we have a subtraction ready for that. How many millimeters is this? 3. That should be just enough. It's a pretty solid piece, so you can keep that flat if you want for the entire thing, so you don't have to really resize this object. But I like to make it a little bit angled like that because it gives a little bit more strength, because the way that it prints it, it gives it a lot more stability. And so now what we can do is select this and the other cutouts there and press Ctrl J. That should join those out perfectly there. And that is now cylinder 10. And modifier Boolean difference from cylinder 10. And everything looks good there. So apply. And we're not going to need this part of it anymore. We might need that part over here. So what I'm going to do is go to edit mode, press L to highlight that, and set P selection by selection. So now we can go ahead and just delete that. But for the other part that we're going to need this probably, so we'll keep that. I spent all the time going to making it. So now we have that all ready to go. That's the bearing holder. Alt H to, oh, not Windows. Alt H to go back to the edit mode, or unhide everything, not edit mode. So now what you can do, if you want, you can join this to this corner here, or leave it separate. It's pretty much up to you. And to make this copy on the other side exactly, what you can do is cursor to center, and then set origin to center, or 3D cursor at the center. Then duplicate it, rotate 180 degrees, and it goes over to the other corner, and it should be exactly where it's needed. Yep. And there's that. And set origin back to center of mass. Now if you adjust them or anything, they'll be just fine. And so now we can set where the Z needs to be on these by moving them up. It just needs to rest inside of that bearing. The bearing doesn't need to be tied down or nothing, so that's at 276 negative. Let's make that one the same. Negative 276. And so the bars can probably go the same there too. Well, actually the bars would probably be about the same. Because they're just going to be fixed in the next part that we make. And I'm just going to check on time here. And that's probably good for this episode. I didn't get a whole lot made. I just got the bearing bushing mounts for the lead screws there. I had to change the color on these to the green that we're working with. So you can kind of see where we're at with these. And so that looks pretty good. So the next part, I'm going to be making the bushing or the rod mounts for the frame that go into there. And then after that I'll get into making the bearings and mounts for the bushings here that the lead screw is attached to. Anyway, that's it for this episode. Stay tuned for the next one. We'll keep on working.